guys, welcome to another video lab of MrLopezClasses.com. We are going to continue in our book of Marine Electricity, the Marine Electricity Handbook and the Marine Electricity course. And this is the lab number 2. We are going to verify today the battery switch selector and how to create the battery banks and how to connect the battery banks with the battery switch selector and the a.c.r, the automatic charging relay. I explained that procedure in this video. You remember that video? In that video, you can see the procedure to create battery banks and connect the battery switch selectors and the a.c.rs. The selection of the battery switch selector is important, is critical. Because remember, the switch selector can be selected according with the capacity in amps per hour. Remember that the battery switch selector in the back, they have two options for the capacity intermittent and the capacity with constant operation. You need to select the battery switch selector according with the capacity of both battery banks working at the same time. You added the capacity of this bank in amps per hour, you added the capacity of the second bank, you put together, and this is the capacity of the switch selector in constant operation. Okay, select the battery switch selector is critical. Normally, the battery switch selector is for each two battery banks. For that reason, in a typical boat, you have two battery switch selectors for the main engines, or one battery switch selector for both generators, or other battery switch selector for bow thrusters and windlass. Normally you found it in a big boat, 4, 6 battery switch selectors. Each battery switch selector is for two battery banks. Okay, in this laboratory we are going to refresh the connection with your instructor about the battery switch selector, and we are going to check the procedure to verify if the battery switch selector is in good condition. It's basically with continuity. Check with continuity if the position A, position B, or the parallel position is working. This is the battery switch selector. With the a.c.rs, the automatic charging relay, we are going to analyze the different type of a.c.rs. The different type of a.c.rs with one input and two outputs, or with two inputs and three outputs, and how the a.c.r should be selected. Once again, is according with the capacity of the battery charger or the alternator. Those are the inputs, and according with the capacity of the battery banks. I explained in that video the procedure to select the a.c.r, and we are going to refresh in the lab the procedure to connect the a.c.r with the battery switch selector and the battery bank. For example, in this wonderful poster, you found that poster in my webpage, in www.mrlopezclasses.com. You select the option poster and you found that poster. This is the typical connection of the cranking system. The cranking system with the two battery banks, one switch selector, and one a.c.r with one input and two outputs. This is the front picture in the cover of my electrical book. That picture is an example of the connection of the a.c.r with one input, the power coming from the alternator. Okay, this is the first part of this laboratory. In the second part of the laboratory, we are going to analyze the charging systems, the different type of charging systems that you have in a boat. In general, you have the battery chargers, marine battery chargers, the alternators, the solar panels, and the windmills. All of those are able to charge the battery bank. And how to integrate those elements with the a.c.rs and the battery banks. Okay, we are going to analyze the charging system, and we are going to check in details the alternator. You remember that video where I explained in details the construction of the alternator, and the function of each part of the alternator. That video. You remember, this is the video. You can check the video with details about the alternator. And we are going to check quickly with your instructor in the lab internally the alternator. And we are going to use a special tool on the lab to verify if the alternator is charging or not. Okay, and we are going to do the same with the battery chargers. We are going to analyze different types of battery chargers, marine battery chargers, and we are going to verify what is the input, what is the output, and how much should be the output appropriated in order to keep the battery banks properly charged. And we are going to check the battery chargers according with the type of batteries. If it's gel, if it's lead acid, if it's AGM, we are going to analyze the battery charger appropriated per each type of battery banks. Okay, and also we are going to check with a couple of solar panels in the lab how to connect the solar panels in parallel and series, and how is the output, how much is the output of the solar panels depending on the intensity of the light. Okay, those are typical sources of power, of DC power, in order to keep the battery banks properly charged. In other words, in this lab, we are going to analyze in details the switch selector, the battery switch selectors, the a.c.r.s, the battery bank configuration, and the charging system. Charging systems, alternator, battery chargers, solar panels, and windmills. And in the last part of the laboratory, we are going to check the start motor. How is the procedure to connect the start motor and the procedure to integrate the start motor with the ignition switch. Like in this poster, we are going to integrate the ignition switch with the crank relay, with the start motor, the alternator, the a.c.r, the battery bank number 1, battery bank number 2, and the switch, the battery switch selector. This is a wonderful poster. This is a great example how to integrate all of those elements. We are going to analyze in the laboratory the start motor. We are going to check in the bank, in the vise, on the table. We are going to connect the start motors, and we are going to analyze if the start motor is working properly. And we are going to check the procedure to verify if the start motor is working good. The procedure to check if the brushes are in good condition, or if the stator is good or not good. This is part of this laboratory. This is a wonderful laboratory. We are going to analyze all of those elements in the same lab, because the next coming lab is the configuration, the wiring of the DC panel, the complete configuration of the DC panel. I hope you enjoy this wonderful lab.